because I worked at Duncan Aviation, and I had to go over to the airport for paperwork out all the time.
Just start.
It was just sign stuff constantly. Every time you deliver a part, you had to sign a ticket, and I just got tired of signing it. It slowly became C-squid.
Probably hard to forfeit.
Excuse my.
Oh, it's not hard, the kids don't use it.
Oh, they know how to do this? That's scary.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Honestly, when my daughter
See,
was
I
in
would-
kindergarten, she had to sign a paper because she sent the boys back and right off, she got trouble, she was supposed to send it home, mom and dad were supposed to read it, and we're supposed to sign it. She just said, Dad, Mom, it's back in.
Oh,
And she's like, are you sure? I signed it right there.
Please stand. Join me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Meeting of the Wahoo City Council, Tuesday, March 28th, 7 o'clock p.m. Open Meetings Act is posted on the wall. Formal meeting to order and roll call, please.
Stuart Frazier.
here.
Carl Walker.
Here.
Ryan Ideas.
Here.
Chris Rappel.
Here.
Patrick Nagel.
Here.
Shane Switzer.
Okay, no proclamation. Anybody in the audience have something that's not on the agenda that you want to discuss? Saying no, so we'll move ahead. We don't have department head reports tonight, so we'll go to the consent agenda. Pretty much routine stuff.
So Bill left to go with Gaina on the trail bundles. I was just curious how much farther they had to go, so Melissa must be.
I believe they're supposed to be done with work this week.
Okay.
Last time
Pretty
there
good.
was an update.
They had a few things that needed to be done about 2 weeks ago. They must have been,
So this is not final.
No, this is
No.
not the final.
yeah.
According to their estimate, they're about half, a little less than half.
So I have pretty small numbers in there. I'm sure it was in there somewhere.
43.4% complete.
Okay. Now, motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Questions? Roll call.
Frazier.
Yes.
Nagel.
Yes.
Rappel.
Yes.
Ideas.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Okay, public hearing and associated items. Public hearing regarding amendment to zoning regulations is recommended by the planning commission to increase required parking stalls for multi-family residences. This pertains to the complex downtown, sometimes called the grocery store project. I think Melissa has visited with you, right? So we'll open up the public hearing, get that over with. I don't know if anybody has any comments on the public hearing.
Well, and one thing during the public comment section, I guess I would point out, I did have a conversation last week with Melissa, and she'd asked about a number of projects that were previously approved by resolution of the city council, and whether or not an amendment to the zoning regulations changing the parking calculation would affect those particular projects. I think in looking at it, it's somewhat clear to me that the proposal as presented would consider those projects grandfathered in terms of that for purposes of calculation. I think that's Travis's intent as well, is to keep the old regs as adopted. I know you guys spent a lot of time, in particular on the downtown project, figuring out how many parking stalls, and that would obviously throw that whole project in a tizzy if this were to be done. But I think in light of that project and the conversation, the purpose of this is realizing that, well, maybe going forward, we ought to be a little bit more restrictive with respect to the amount of parking that's required under today's day and age, where more people in households have cars instead of sharing cars.
So we would have two projects that would be grandfathered in, downtown and campus.
Correct.
Correct.
That was my first concern. Yeah. I'm not doing this and then have to go back and redo that, because we did that already. Okay.
Any other comments from the public? I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Warford,
Yes.
Creachy.
Yes.
Ideas.
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Rappel.
Yes.
Okay, Travis, you wanna discuss why the,
Oh,
down the road?
yeah, so what's in front of you right now is an amendment to the zoning regulations regarding parking specifically to multifamily dwellings. As the discussion had went through with the downtown apartments and whatnot, as Joven stated, a lot of the planning commission members were kind of concerned with, with today, the number of vehicles that people have and everything, that maybe that number isn't quite high enough for the number of bedrooms. So basically, the only change would be affecting the multifamily. Everything else has stayed the same. So instead of the 1 space per sleeping unit, we'd actually have 1.5 stalls per sleeping unit. So if it is an apartment with 1 bedroom, the count would have to be 1.5 stalls for that. So if you had 2 1-bedroom units, obviously you'd have 3 stalls that would have to be accounted for rather than 2.
And you round up.
I was gonna say, so it's not rounding by apartment, it's not 2 for a 1-bedroom, because we have to round up, it's take the total sum of that entire complex.
Correct.
This
Yep.
complex has a total of 40 bedrooms across 30 units, therefore we need 60 parking spaces to go with our 40 bedrooms.
Yeah, so it'd go by apartment per sleeping unit. So yeah, that would be the overall count.
All of the single bedroom, but most of them.
Yeah, so if you had an apartment with 3 bedrooms, one of the changes was the 3 bedrooms would have 3 parking stalls, and then anything above that, which normally you're probably not gonna have that, you wouldn't think you'd have a 4-bedroom apartment, but then adding a half stall for every bedroom above that then. So yeah, you'd look at the 2-bedroom units, you'd look at the 3-bedroom units, combine all those together. So if you end up with a half a unit, obviously you'd round up for that requirement.
And your definition of multifamily remains a duplex or a townhome on.
No, so like two-family dwellings would not count as multifamily. And a lot of times with farm marsh or whatever, anything above a triplex. So like a 4-plex would be multifamily, like a triplex and below. Duplex would not be counted as multifamily. We have residential requirements for those single and 2-family homes.
Okay.
So they'd still have their garage space and everything else associated with that.
So you mentioned that, I don't know how you call it, a graduated scale where it changes as you go with more bedrooms, but is that what we're looking at here? Because I'm seeing just straight up 1.5 bedroom.
Yeah, I mentioned the
So the highlighted portion in the minutes right there,
Yeah. But that's.
That's not the ordinance we have in front of us, so that might have been what was discussed, but that's not what we have.
Yeah, I'm looking for a table in the ordinance.
yeah, so the ordinance needs to be adjusted a little bit. Because I think Christina didn't have quite the right language that was motioned and approved at the planning commission for recommendation. So in front of you, I know Stuart's got it right there, the highlighted minutes. It actually states that as far as, the other thing that they added is not only, where it says general vicinity of the apartments, it says on the same property, and then it references the conditional use as far as giving the council the ability to allow parking to be counted on street to meet that count, which is already in our regulations. It just specifically referenced that, so that instead of,
Because this thing says cited on premise.
right, and then it says reference 7.01 or whatnot if it is not able to meet that count on premise,
Okay.
which goes into the conditional use process that they can apply for.
Do we need to comment somewhere that this is, does not include any of the projects in place now?
I talked to Melissa about that. I think I felt like to do that and to pinpoint 2 projects probably wouldn't be appropriate. We, as a policy matter, would simply indicate that they're grandfathered, only because is there another project out there that came in front of us that we aren't thinking about in the last year?
Okay.
That also it is or should be considered grandfathered. I don't know. Can't think of one. Certainly she couldn't either, but I think it's just a matter of how does Travis and internally the staff enforce it.
So, I think as long as the council understands where we're at on it right now, okay?
So we are gonna be going with this verbiage that is not in
Yes, it was what's highlighted in
Okay.
your packet will be substituted for the highlight in the minutes.
Gotcha, okay.
I'm glad for the clarification. I mean, this has been a long time coming. I'm glad the planning commission was able to work this through and give it to us.
Yeah, so that wording went to the planning commission a couple different times to fine tune it and get what they actually believed would work best. So that highlighted area is what they actually had the motion and second on to move forward.
And there's that's like common now for most cities are starting to follow suit on this.
Yeah, so there was quite a bit of research done with that when we looked at that. We looked at Seward, Wayne, different communities, kind of our size, and tried to kind of not go the most restrictive or the less, least restrictive, and kind of went in the middle and hit that number in between, so.
No, we could wait. Second, third.
I mean, as far as ordinances, I would make a motion to approve. I'm not sure I'm interested in waiving. I'd rather see it again, come back to
I
it.
don't see there's emergency.
I just
I
asked-
to shove
We
it.
can do it in one
I
motion,
would agree.
an amendment, we don't have to wait.
Yeah,
But
so
it's
you would
ordinance?
pass, you would move to approve the ordinance as amended per planning commission recommendation. Don't waive the second, third reading, let it go to the next.
I said that.
I'll second what you said.
You're good, Joe. Just write that way. Any other questions? Roll call on the amendment.
Creachy,
Yes.
Warford,
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Ideas,
Yes.
Gravel.
Yes.
Okay. Action not required in public hearing. Approval of second reading on ordinance 2429 regarding UTVs within city limits. We discussed this internally, for some of the council members, the first time they've had a chance to see it or discuss it possibly as amended. Well, everybody has amended. So the recommendation is, and the timing on this, you're thinking maybe by the 1st of June, we'd be ready with everything? If it moves ahead.
My thought process was if you approve the second reading today and the third reading of the next, that would give us about 6 weeks to get everything in place as far as what form we need for them to fill out to apply for the permits, get actual permits in place. Hopefully having that implemented June 1st.
Okay. I would mention that Melissa and I received emails today and indicated all of you are on a list to get a letter from an advocate group with this subject matter and asked us to consider it carefully. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So you probably will be getting a letter. At least that's the way it sounds. So, is there a motion to have the second reading?
I would make that motion. Looks like everything is in here that we.
Yeah, everything I was looking for is there, so I was just following through and making sure I've seen everything. The only thing I'm not seeing is, it is impound a vehicle, that was the other one that I was looking
Yeah.
for. Okay. I'll second the motion.
So, motion been made and second for the second reading. Roll call.
Creachy,
Yes.
Gravel,
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Warford,
Yes.
Ideas.
Yes. Number 2, approval of construction engineering agreement with Olson and Associates for the Wilmer Ridge subdivision. Discussed last time, thought it was probably better, more transparency and perhaps an outside firm do the oversight. And so that's what this deals with.
So we're actually approving the agreement?
Correct.
And I'm not familiar with the hourly rates. I'm assuming those are standard hourly rates
Yeah.
for charges.
That's what I see all my stuff I get back.
Okay.
I would make a motion to approve, right?
I'll second.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call, motion to approve Olson for oversight.
Warford,
Yes.
Nagel,
Yes.
Rappel,
Yes.
Ideas,
Yes.
Creachy.
Yes.
Number 3, approval of letter of intent between Lincolnshire Investments and the city. The way I've understood it, maybe both wings here can help me on this. So the developer is able to present a document to the lender, should be able to, for him to be able to move ahead with his project, as we all move forward.
Yeah, you're correct, Jerry. So the intent here really in the recital is just to basically say, how did we get where we are in terms of what was the proposal process, what were the proposals as presented, what modification of the project diagram took place after the approval of the last proposal with Lincolnshire, and then to kind of outline in very high-level terms what the terms and conditions of the redevelopment agreement might look like. Right now, what basically we're proposing is there'd be 2 phases to this particular project. Phase 1 would consist of the city transferring title and ownership to the developer of South Hall, or the Campbell Center, as commonly referred to, so that then the development of that particular portion of the project can be done. Upon completion of that portion of the project, you move to phase 2, which is the larger green space and park area that is included on that diagram. But you would have to complete phase 1 before we get to a transfer title on phase 2 of that particular project. I think that makes sense both from the developer's perspective of kind of tiptoeing into this and seeing how things go, and then also from the city's perspective, because the city was concerned and didn't want to vest title all at once, be back on the back end of a loan agreement that they would have with their lender on the property, and not have any security or any way to protect itself on the park property side of things. So that's basically what it consists of. This document, as approved, then would allow the developer to take it to lending institutions and the like to make sure that they're aware of what the project looks like, that there will be title vested in that phase 1 property to them, so that they can go ahead and get the necessary financing to proceed with the project. And then also, one of the next things that will come in front of you is the TIF portion of that particular project, and we can all proceed and kind of get that thing off center.
So you're saying that title should pass now?
Only on the Campbell Hall property.
Why pass now? Why shouldn't it pass upon an approval letter from a lender?
Well, and it won't pass, the LOI is a non-binding commitment, so this document by itself is just showing the framework.
That we would do that?
That we will do that, yes, so
Okay.
that the lender feels a little better about saying, yes, I feel comfortable with the granting and financing. Eventually, before that we would transfer title or they put a shovel in the ground, we'd have to actually formally sign a development agreement.
Okay.
That an agreement? Mike?
Yes, yeah, as written. I think so.
So just to be clear, what steps have to be done in order to get property to pass? We need an approval letter, we need a development agreement, or the development agreement is all encompassing?
Yeah,
Or we need
so
both?
we would need the approval, he would need the approval letter so that he knows the project's good to go,
Yeah.
and he can commit the company to proceed. We then would sign the redevelopment agreement upon presentment to the council. Then we would transfer title after the development agreement is signed, and they would start putting shovel into the ground.
Development agreement will be the trigger.
Yeah.
for that, yeah.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
The motion made, seconded to approve the letter of intent. Any other questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Nagel,
Yes.
Creachy.
Yes.
Warford,
Yes.
Ideas.
Yes.
Rappel.
Yes.
Okay. Comments from the mayor, really nothing. I guess, you probably know, Melissa had some sinus surgery, and will be off all this week and a couple days next week, I believe. I'm doing fine, I guess,
Yep.
from what I hear, so that's good. I see where most of us have indicated the dates that would work for our open session, work session. on the facilities, so probably wait till, make sure everybody's in and let you know what date that's gonna work for the most people. So, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So just back to the ordinance number 2429 regarding ATVs and UTVs within the city limits. Are those city limits, do they have restricted roads they can drive on? Or they can drive on all roads?
Can't drive on any road, an ATV and UTV can't go on a road that has a speed limit of more than 35 miles an hour. Which makes things complicated between getting from the south end of town back into town.
Okay.
Outside of that, anything within the city limits would be allowed.
It would be allowed, so under 35?
Anything that has a speed limit under 35.
Okay.
30, so.
And,
That's not the city limit.
and then they could park like in normal parking stalls, or they have like specific parking spots?
Parking.
So would they be allowed to do 2 ATVs in one parking stall, or?
I don't know, I don't even got that deep. I can't imagine they would.
Depends on the size, and some of them get to a pretty good size.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, obviously, I've been in the news for parking, and
Now I understand your question.
yeah, and it sounds like the last zoning planning meeting might be restricting it more, and I'm thankful to be grandfathered in. Though, if we're allowing ATVs, UTVs that only hold 1 or 2 people to be driven and parked, downtown, it just kind of goes the opposite way of allowing convenience of parking, So I want to know kind of those details of how it affects
Yeah,
parking, which is
it's
quote unquote the
an
problem.
ATV park downtown instead of a car park downtown, and it still takes a spot, it would be the.
So does a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And motorcycle takes a spot too.
Yeah.
And they're all, a driver
This,
parks
the same,
vehicle
the
and-
same person is driving a motorized vehicle would take up a parking spot, whether it's a 3/4 ton pickup or a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Extremes.
And we haven't talked about.
We haven't got that far yet, but I think.
Oh, man.
We'll see how
Yeah.
that plays out.
Yeah, so I mean, are those details yet to play out, or not really?
We're one meeting from finished passing, getting it out there, so. I
Okay.
don't know that parking was even discussed, I just assumed we park it like you.
Yeah,
Motorcycle,
there's like
everything
one
else is
vehicle.
just-
One stall, one motorized
One
vehicle.
parking, yeah, one stall, one vehicle.
It's just the math is different because you can only bring one. You can only park.
Unless you enforce the rule.
Only 1 or 2 people can drive an ATV, right? Like driver and a passenger.
Yeah,
If it's
made for 2, then they
Yeah.
can have 2.
Yeah.
UTV that says they can have 6, they can have 6.
Okay.
Well, is it fair to say, as part of this discussion, one of the things I think the council's acknowledged is that the intent on this particular ordinance is, let's pass it and then let's see how things go. There may be not modifications that are necessary down the road to address a parking issue or a particular safety issue that presents itself, or something that currently nobody's advocating for, or presenting, or suggesting as an issue, and we're doing a little bit of a wait and see with respect to that.
I don't exactly expect to be able to drive down Fifth Street and see 10 or 15 people who drove their 4-wheelers into town. It could happen, but I don't really expect it.
Yeah.
The golf carts thing, if that comes about, I could see that, people who want to, like, oh, they're just gonna, but the fact that they have to be home by sunset, so that's just gonna be a day trip in and out, so
Sure.
people coming in on dinner, you gotta be back out before it gets dark, so.
That I'd still like to discuss on the golf carts when we get there.
Yeah, and I think the intent is, as soon as we put this one finalized, that then we'll move into the golf course.
Yeah, I kinda wish we'd have started with golf carts, because we're gonna be halfway through the golf season, but I imagine people will be probably still finding their way out there as they have the previous
They always
years,
have,
so.
yeah. Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have anything else, any other comments from the council? Are we saying that Melissa being gone, we can get done?
We weren't gonna say it. I heard that as a compliment to Christina, that's what I heard right there.
Notice he said that after the motion to adjourn.
Yeah. And the camera's on.
Melissa's sitting somewhere right now.
Yeah, you're not just watching.
I wonder how it's going.
Just wait till your cell phones are.